The NFL Combine is rolling along, and on today's show, we are going to catch you guys up on every player, at least that's been reported to have met with this Chicago Bears up to this point. Full disclosure, this is not the full list. Not all of them get reported. Chances are there's a chance a couple I've missed, but this is everyone that I have seen up to this point that the Bears have met with at the NFL Combine. So we are going to go through these guys. And listen, I don't get to do a video every single time they meet with a prospect, but I am posting about it on social media. So give me a follow on Twitter, X, at HGrahamNFL. Same on Instagram, at HGrahamNFL. If you want real-time Bears and NFL updates in real time, go ahead and give me a follow. And that extends beyond the NFL Combine, tweeting, posting about the Chicago Bears and the NFL on a daily basis. Okay, let's get to some combine meetings. A little tracker here. Ashton Jeanty, obviously a big name that's been linked to the Bears for a while now. The Boise State running back who was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. I thought had a very strong case to win the Heisman this year. Had an unbelievable season for Boise State, and he confirmed that he met with the Bears and named one coach in particular when asked about how that meeting went. Here's what Jeanty had to say at the NFL Combine.
It went great. Talking with Coach Bieniemy, just talking football, talking about my life. It was a great meeting. It was a great meeting with all of them.
Pointing out Eric Bieniemy, of course, a long time at running backs coach, former offensive coordinator as well. You know what's interesting? There's been some comps for Ashton Jeanty as kind of a supercharged Maurice Jones-Drew. You know where Maurice Jones-Drew went to college? That would be UCLA. You know who was his running backs coach back at UCLA back in the day? That would be Eric Bieniemy. So does it mean they're going to draft Ashton Jeanty? I don't know. But I do think he becomes an option for the Bears with the number 10 pick if they have a good free agency. And what does that mean? That means you add at least 2 starters on the offensive line. If you get 2 new starters in addition to Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones, I'm comfortable taking Jeanty at 10 and then adding another offensive lineman on day 2 to be that 5th starter, maybe compete with somebody else that you had in free agency as well. So we'll see how it all plays out. As of now, I wouldn't take him, but you had a couple starting offensive linemen. That certainly could change my tune, and I'm definitely more open to the idea. Would you draft Ashton Jeanty with the number 10 pick? Type D for draft or type P for pass? Again, I got to see how free agency goes, but if they add a few starters to that offensive line, I think it becomes more of a real option. Omarion Hampton is a player they've met with as well, the running back out of North Carolina. Ben Johnson played at North Carolina as a walk-on quarterback back in the day, so certainly an interesting kind of connection there. I'm a big Hampton guy. He's my number 2 running back in this draft. I think what he did this year, a year after losing Drake May, is even more impressive because North Carolina did not have a formidable passing game. So Hampton faced a lot of 7- and 8-man boxes. So he's having to break tackles, have incredible vision to get the most out of these plays, and he did it. And he caught the ball effectively as well because they did a lot of screen and dump-off game because they didn't, again, have a downfield passing attack very much. So I like that they have met with Hampton. He would be a home run at 39 or 41 if he fell that far. Not sure he will. Here's an interesting note. Doesn't mean anything, does it not? As of now, they have not met with Iowa running back Caleb Johnson. Now, remember, I think he qualifies as local, so they'll probably bring him in with their local draft prospects day, which is always, it'll be like University of Illinois players, Northwestern, stuff like that. I think Iowa qualifies, so I wouldn't look too much into this. Sometimes teams intentionally don't meet with prospects because they don't want other teams to know they're interested. So there could be a million reasons. They also, maybe they're not interested. I don't know. But I would think that he is still on their radar. He's my 3rd favorite running back in this draft. But up to this point, they have not met with the Iowa running back. Okay, take a look at a tight end here. Gunnar Helm, the tight end out of Texas. And I do think that tight end is a position to keep on your radar because the last couple of years we've seen it. Cole Kmet's been a good player, but the other tight ends have not been very good. Helm was very good for Texas this year, a favorite of Quinn Ewers, who's also in this draft at quarterback as well. Caught 60 balls and 73 targets, so very efficient there. Good average at 13 a clip, 7 touchdowns, only had a couple of drops. Very reliable hands, good route runner. good-ish blocker. There's some work that needs to be done there, but this is not a guy who's incapable of it. I think he could grow into that. He's got enough size, I think. So I think he'd be an interesting player. Now, where he goes, I feel like late third, early fourth is the sweet spot, and the Bears don't really pick there. They pick early third, and then they pick again in the fifth. Do they end up with a pick in that range if they trade down at some point? Possibly, but I do think adding a tight end could make some sense. How about Terrance Ferguson? Terrance Ferguson out of Oregon, who's had a few good years here as well. He has met with the Bears, and he talked to the media about his meeting with the Bears and also mentioned a couple of current Bears players that he once went up against in his college football days.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. I was played against him, lost to Rome a couple times, but watching Caleb and those guys playing against them and watch them in person, they're elite players. So just playing with elite players is the best.
Of course, a couple of years ago, Oregon and Washington had a couple of big-time battles where the Huskies got the better of them, Rome Odunze, Michael Penix, and the boys, which led all the way to a national title appearance. Oregon did get the better of Caleb Williams and USC, but certainly would be an interesting fit to add to this offense. And let's face it, after Cole Kmet, it just has not worked. 2 years in a row, they've tried to add a receiving threat behind him. Robert Tonyan 2 years ago, he was washed. Gerald Everett, I don't know if he's washed or if it was just a bad fit or whatever the case may be, but that didn't work. They cut him. Mercedes Lewis, appreciate his efforts, but he's 41 years old now. To me, you got to go younger there. I think you draft a tight end and you sign one in free agency. That would be my approach if I were the Bears, and then that's your 3 tight end room with Cole Kmet. Okay, receivers now. They've met with 3 of them. I want to talk about these 2 at once. Jack Bech, the wide receiver out of TCU, Senior Bowl MVP. He was the one whose brother died as a part of the tragic New Orleans terror attack on New Year's Eve. He's had the mental wherewithal to kind of keep going through this process, and he's really helped himself out. He had a great Senior Bowl week. We'll see how he tests at the Combine, but I think teams are really going to like this guy. And one thing he does really well that Ben Johnson will love is he is a willing blocker. He's kind of a former tight end converted to receiver, big body guy who's played both slot and outside at TCU. And then Xavier Restrepo, as you compare the 2 guys' numbers, more of a traditional slot, 5-year college player, played with Cam Ward this year, put up some big numbers, obviously. I think he's more of the slot route running technician. Bech is more versatile, but maybe he's not as savvy as a route runner, although he is a pretty good one as well. I think this is a pick-your-flavor situation if you were to go after one of these guys. I think they'll both be day 2, second, third-round guys. Obviously, the Bears have 2 seconds and a third. I think if either of these guys got to 72, great value. Probably a tick early for both at 39 and 41, especially Restrepo because he is strictly just a slot. But that number 3 receiver position is still one to keep an eye on. Again, if you're going to take a receiver in the second or even third round, I think that means you have to feel pretty good about where your trenches sit at that point in time. How about Kyle Williams? Maybe he's a guy you could get more on day 3, the receiver out of Washington State. Played his first 4 years at Nevada, then transfers to Wazoo and put together a fantastic season. 17 yards per catch. Like, if you're thinking a poor man's JMO type, just a speedy guy, again, extremely poor man's, but if you're really like explosive playmaker, I think he can provide some of that for this team. I think he'd be more of a day 3 guy that you throw into the mix with guys like Tyler Scott and maybe a free agent to compete for that third wide receiver role, but keep an eye on Williams as he met with the Bears as well. Okay, Ozzie Trapio, the only offensive line confirmed meeting as of now. Now, remember, we have not even heard from offensive linemen yet. They have not spoken to the media as of yet, so there will be way more confirmations of O-line meetings with the Bears as we progress, but Trapio is one they've met with. Kind of an interesting one because he's been, I think, a 3-year starter at right tackle. You have Darnell Wright, so is he someone you would kick inside? Not really built like a guard at 6'8", 309. Is he someone that could be a swing tackle type? Could he play left tackle? Competition for Braxton Jones, I'm not really sure. Most have him as like a day 2 guy, second, third round prospect. So we'll see where he ends up going and if the Bears are a team that could end up drafting him. We got Bears NFL Combine coverage all week. Still got a few more days of the Combine to go, so subscribe, turn on those notifications. We will continue to keep you guys informed and entertained of all things Combine related. Of course, so that includes free agency buzz that emerges from the Combine and everything else as well. Okay, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, that's been confirmed as a meeting. He's not working out. He has some hamstring tightness, I believe, so he's not going to work out in Indy. He didn't have, like, the most top-tier measurables. He's 296, which is funny because they listed him at 320. It's like these schools will just juice up these guys, like, height and weight sometimes. 32-inch arms, so, like, could he slide because he doesn't have, like, the prototype that teams typically love at the top of the draft? I'll say this. If he's sitting there at number 10, you should sprint to the podium. I mean, I would be absolutely thrilled if he was on the board at number 10. I still think he goes top 5, top 6, 7 at worst. Like, if you're Aaron Glenn and the Jets, are you really going to pass on this guy? I doubt it. So I don't think he'd get to the Bears at 10. But if he does, be ready to pick him because that would be a great selection. Mykel Williams out of Georgia, a player we talked about some leading in to the NFL Combine. Very traitsy guy. Now, he's not as traitsy as Shamar Stewart, as we saw at the Combine. Williams, along with Shamar Stewart, very much traits versus production. Now, he had a little more production than Stewart, not quite as traitsy as Stewart. I think Shamar Stewart's kind of an outlier given his measurables and testing compared to his college production. But here's what I like about Mykel Williams. Not only is he long and athletic, pretty good motor, and he's 20. He's not even 21 yet. So, like, this is a guy that could really grow into being a big-time player. Like, he's got a real shot of being he'll be better as a pro than he was as a college player. Now, there's risk. I would put this guy in the boom-bust category. So, do you take a guy like that at 10? I would view him more as a trade-down guy. Like, if you trade down to, like, 15, 16, he's there, I'm more comfortable because at least you've got an extra capital. But we'll see. It wouldn't shock me if he entered that top 10 range. Pick yourself up an FGB t-shirt right now, chatsports.com/FGB. If you hate the Packers, if you can't stand the Cheeseheads, get yourself a t-shirt today, chatsports.com/FGB. Jamaree Caldwell, the defensive tackle out of Oregon, didn't test that well, but not really a surprise. He's you know what he is on the tape. He's a one-tech, physical, blockers eating guy. Like, he's not going to give you 5 sacks, but he honestly, his frame, his building, like his motor on tape, and when you watch Oregon play, like, he flashes. He reminds me a lot of Andrew Billings, where you line up and you're like, really, this guy's going to wreck my day? It's like, yeah, he is. He's low to the ground, and he's just going to drive the pocket, stuff the run, and be difficult to deal with. I think he's like is he like a 3rd to 5th round guy? I think he'll be in that range somewhere. I think 72 is probably too early for him. If he's there at 148, I love it. I think he's somewhere in that gap, so I'm not sure he'll actually be in range where the Bears currently have picks, but certainly a player worth monitoring. Not going to spend too much time on linebackers here because it's not a top need. Jalen McLeod, Caden Medrano, who tested well. So did Carson Schweisinger, both of those guys out of UCLA. Just a few moments on Schweisinger here, as he kind of did it all for the Bruins last year. I think he led the team in tackles, had 4 sacks, 18 pressures, can cover as well. He's made a name for himself. He probably goes in the 2nd round. I'd be kind of surprised if the Bears took a backer on day 2, though. I don't think that'll be the case, so kind of interesting that they've chosen to have a formal with him because I do think he'll go on day 2, but they met with him nonetheless. Okay, some safeties here. Andrew Makuba out of Texas, a Cullen draft crush. We will bring Cullen into the conversation here in just a second, but here's Makuba talking about his play style, how Texas got him ready for the league, and the fact that he has met with the Bears.
That's play specifically, and I was able to show my instincts, obviously my ball skills, and but yeah, I say Texas definitely helped me put me in position. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I met with the Bears. That meeting went great. Those coaching staff, I feel like they were happy with how things went in there in their room, and that meeting went great though. I like that meeting. Yeah, it was. I got a chance to talk to all the coaching staff. All the coaching staff was in there. We had a good talk while I was in there. The conversation went great.
Does Ryan Poles watch Bears now? Probably not, but it's fun. Colin, you threw Makuba out there a couple weeks ago as one of your draft crushes. For for those watching Bears now for the first time, every Monday and Thursday, although Friday this week we go live, and Cullen reveals one new draft crush per show. Makuba's a guy that's been on your radar, and the Bears have met with him.
Yeah, Andrew Makuba, I think, is going to be somebody that the Bears not only meet, I think he's going to be a factor in the draft process. Obviously, there's other safeties that we're going to get into, but when you talk about a Dennis Allen defense and how creative he likes to get on the back end, to me, the most versatile defensive back, arguably in this class, is none other than Andrew Makuba. You see the stats on your screen: 69 tackles, 5 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. He's a guy that, has a nose for the football. He plays everywhere in the secondary. He plays the high safety. He plays in the box. He plays in the slot. He's just an ultimate chess piece for a secondary that, again, you're looking at the safety room with Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard. They're going to look to potentially get younger at that spot, and I think Andrew Makuba is a guy that if you're the Bears, you have to really consider.
Yeah, it's interesting. Texas, they have 2 DBs in this draft that are very versatile. Jahdae Barron as well, who's played some corner and some nickel and some safety. So Makuba will be interesting. I think if he's there at 72, Colin, that's probably around the value for him.
Agreed.
I think he could be a good selection in that range if you feel good about your trenches and want to kind of hedge a little bit at that safety position, given the question marks around that room right now. Real quick, won't spend as much time on these other guys. Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. Kevin Winston's an interesting player. Only played 3 games this year. I can't remember if it was an injury or what the issue was for Penn State. I think it was an injury, but coming into this college football season, he was pretty high on people's radars, so I'll be curious to see what his value is for these teams. And then Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. He's played a lot of ball for the Hokies. I could see the Bears taking a corner on day 3, but I think they're really going to put in work to try and make Tyreek Stevenson work. They still have Terrell Smith as a depth piece as well, but maybe a guy like Strong on day 3 to play some special teams and maybe be a developmental piece could be an option also. So there you go. Those are the draft meetings we for sure know of so far. Again, there's definitely others. We haven't even heard from the offensive lineman talk yet, and we just don't hear some of the meetings that happen sometimes. They don't always get reported, etc. So those are the ones we know so far. Question for you guys. What is the top Bears roster need beyond the trenches? Like, take offensive line out of it, take defensive line out of it. Where are you looking? I think it's running back, even though you have DeAndre Swift. I think pairing someone with Swifty is going to be something that I want to do. Ben's talked about it multiple times. Like, let's take a little pressure off Caleb Williams. He was 7th in the NFL in attempts last year. That should not have happened for a rookie quarterback. So if you can become more balanced and a team that can set the tone running the football, I think that's going to be a good thing. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Bears content.